Sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's come back into play. Exactly, Miller's still start dropping. He's not on second and change.
Hello everybody and welcome to the TSRC GT4 series. After tonight we're going to hit the halfway mark in another season of this championship, but we've still got another 40-minute race to go until we get there. For the first time we go to Navarra, which is a circuit that hasn't been on iRacing very much at all, to go with some of the very familiar circuits that we've got elsewhere in this calendar, like Sebring last week, Nürburgring next week. This is a stark contrast to that as we go racing for the third time this season. It's myself, Ewan O'Leary, alongside Dean Biggles this evening, and we're looking forward to this one, Biggles. I mean, it's not a circuit we know a lot about, and we're just speaking to Kieran Sharp beforehand about why maybe there's a couple less than in other weeks of this championship. Maybe some people put off by the circuit. It certainly will have been a day where everybody, or a week rather, where everyone will have been learning their way around here, because it is not very common to go racing here.
No, you're absolutely correct on that one. And welcome everybody. Of course, our super fan out there, Phil across the pond. Good evening to yourself, as well as we got Let's Go from DQ Dave. We're streaming, of course, on both the TRSC YouTube channel and the James Broadcasting Network. But yeah, as you said, my friend, sometimes you find the drivers actually do very, very well when they just freshly get hold of a track there and start driving cars around. I mean, you know, once you're a racing driver, you generally know how to throw your machine around each of the corners. The more you do it, the quicker you start to get.
I guess the advantage they've got is that they don't have this sort of predestined idea about what the circuit's like, which might, as you say, might be a good thing, all in all. As I say, welcome along to everyone who is tuned in tonight. Great to have you all along for the ride. We're currently in qualifying. That is 12 minutes away from completion. We've come to the end of the countdown, just pretty much as they were beginning, so you haven't missed anything. You're currently watching the first laps. Kieran Sharp is the first of the drivers to be heading around the circuit. Is just 1 point off the championship leader, Volkan Bakir'den, who is on the top of the standings in that Aston Martin. But with that one drop week applied, considering there's only been 2 rounds, it's a pretty odd look to the championship, and that's something we're going to focus a little bit more on in the second half of the season. Tonight is just about enjoying the racing, really, as Kieran Sharp comes out the final corner now. One of the pro drivers, of course, you can see with the black backgrounds to their numbers, the red backgrounds denoting an AM driver. Kieran Sharp goes over the line with a 1:45.6, and that's the benchmark for everybody else to aim at. I can't help but notice that Sharp did lose quite a few of his fastest sector times throughout the day. There are the championship standings, with him just 1 point behind Volkan Bakir'den. Then Josh Millington is in third place. Just 1 point separates him and Tom Davidson. Pierre-Antoine is in fifth, but of Jamie Nuttall and Felix Smoggy, who are on the same points as well. Jason Marshall, Hayden Miller and Bobby Moss round out the top 10 in pro. And then in AM, William Chandler's leading the way, although only tied with Clement So. In second, it is Ian Pfeiffer in third place, just 5 points ahead of Richard Phillips and Brandon Hay, who are tied on points. David Long is sixth ahead of the two Germans, Patrick Den and Johnny Wu. Then it is Matt Smith and Mav Gardner to round out the top 10 there as well. So plenty of drivers having scored points so far, got themselves onto the board, 12 in AM and 16 in Pro. So a good entry all in all. And a decent entry tonight as well, as I say. So the first times are coming in. Sharp has been overtaken by Josh Millington, who has currently gone quickest. But now look at this. He's finding himself in a bit of traffic, which is a bit problematic for him here on this second lap.
Yeah, we can't show the track map, unfortunately, because there's a little issue with iRacing, and you can see cars going in the opposite direction down the main straightaway as they come out of the corner. So, yeah, we're going to get used to learning this track as we go along. But look at as you mentioned, William Chandler there at the moment, my friend. Not bad. I just saw his time, and remember he's in that championship hunt near AM, and he's tied, isn't he, on the lead points? So this could be looking good for him, and he's certainly got some serious time, as some of those other drivers in the pro class are starting to put some times in now.
Yeah, it's a very early stage in this qualifying session, that is for sure. Kieran Sharp has gone quicker again at the top of the standings, so he is now 2 tenths clear of Millington as Chandler goes over the line again, not improving, just backing off a little bit there, just opening up a little bit of a gap in front of you, and that's exactly what you need in these qualifying sessions. You just need a small gap for you to open out into, and then you'll start to see improvements in your lap time. You don't want stuff like this. You don't want to be following somebody this closely, otherwise they will start slowing you down.
It's my Australian out there too. G'day, Marcus Cook. The only Aussie on the field, so he's going to get the full Aussie support from up here in the casting box. Kieran Sharp has just gone a little bit quicker in the first sector. Let's follow him around and give us a guided tour there. Running shotgun. Please,
Ewan. This is the middle sector here, the double left-hander at 11 and 12. That we're really at the end of the lap now, to be honest. But these are the final few corners. Another big stop down here. It's very stop-start, I've got to say, this circuit. Not that enjoyable to drive on your own, but hopefully it's good to race on. Then through 14, which is barely really a corner. You just need to think about lining yourself up for the turn 15 braking zone, which is a very important corner, actually. Getting yourself out of there quickly really makes sure brakes a lap right from the very beginning, because you've got this very long front straight. And then into a very bizarre opening section of corners. Turns 1, 2 and 3 are very weird, considering they are turn 1, 2 and 3. Kind of like the corners at the end of the back straight at Misano, if you're familiar with that circuit. Also newly added to iRacing, just feel rather similar to that. And then that gets you into the middle of the circuit for the middle of the lap. Unsure as to what we're going to see in terms of racing here, because as I said to you before, I've only done one commentary around this circuit. Didn't have high hopes, but was thoroughly impressed, actually, with the racing that I got in some GR86s around here. Now, maybe the slightly bigger nature of these cars and the faster nature of them as well will not play into the hands of those who want to see good racing, i.e. us. But maybe they will, and maybe we'll see some good racing nevertheless. It's just difficult to see where there's going to be too many overtakes made, because the back straight isn't very long on the way towards turn 9, although that's a pretty big stop. And turn 1 and 2 doesn't really encourage overtaking too much. In fact, it makes it a little bit difficult.
Yeah, it looks like would it be motorcycle track really is this essentially built for? I think that we were talking about in the green room earlier, so not so sure it's going to be that well for the overtaking of these motor vehicles, of course, the GT4s. We got a couple more chats out there. Fingers crossed for a close battle with the TRC boys at the front again. And you won't see any more of me this series there from Hayden Miller. But possibly be back for the next series. All right. It's unfortunate. Any particular reason, my friend? I guess you might have something. You all have regular life schedules and things like that. The Frenchman at the moment, Perry, fastest first sector, but not quite sure this middle sector here. And does he have a bit of traffic? No, he's okay. He's just up the road there, isn't he?
Yeah, I wonder if traffic was interrupting earlier in the lap, or whether it's just come at the right time here. That'll be barely an improvement. If it is, yeah, it is. Just a little bit, but doesn't gain him many positions. Millington also improves, but still over 2 steps behind Sharp. Now again, we're in the section where you're a bit too close, really. to the Aston Martin in front. I know we don't have the timer on the top left, but it is 5 minutes to go, just over 5 minutes remain in this qualifying session, and so it's time to start thinking about your final couple of laps. You can probably fit 3 more in if you're crossing the line right now. Oh dear. But if you're not and you're in the pit lane, you need to get out very quickly, and there are a few drivers on out laps at the moment, as you can see there. That's counting. Oh, there we go. We have 5 minutes remaining now in the qualifying session, so that's all good news for everybody who's looking forward to the racing, and especially good news for those who are on pole, because they're both pretty comfortable at the moment, and they'd be pleased to see this session end now. Kieran Sharp, first of all, 2 tenths ahead of the rest, but Chandler as well, 5 tenths ahead of the rest, basically. And it's not just the time that Chandler has taken from the AM rivals in that class, it's also the 3 cars in between first and second place in AM. That really helps you when you're the leader, if you've just got that little bit of a buffer with a few pro drivers protecting your position in the lead effectively.
Yeah, of course you get it. Yeah, so exactly. It's like you got some blockers in there in football or something like that, some back, almost like back markers or something, even though they're pro drivers. Be interesting to see. Thank you for that out there, Hayden Miller, as well too. He's moved to the Porsche Cup Series and he got a P5 and P2 last night. Congratulations, good job. Like good results. The only thing that's evading you right now is a P1. That's next on your list.
Yeah. Also improves there. Jamie Nuttall into 6th position. One of the only improvements that time round, really. There's not too many green or certainly not purple sectors coming through at the moment. William Chandler making his way up to the line at the moment and isn't going to improve from there. He will stay in 10th. Clemens does improve, though. Nick Clemens improves into 8th position. So that's a nice improvement from him. David Long was going okay, but he's lost a lot of time and is going to be setting himself up for this lap rather than the one that he's currently on at the moment. Liam Giles has gone all right in the second sector there, but he's nowhere near improving. Really very, very few improvements coming in here at all, and you get the feeling that maybe most of these drivers now have actually reached their limit.
Yeah, Marcus Cook does a little bit of improvement. Let's have a look to see if Tom can make up any differences. I've dropped you out there. Are you still here, Ewan?
Yeah, okay.
Yep, okay,
yeah.
sorry.
Did I drop?
Yeah, drop you out for a second.
Okay, sorry, apologies. Yes, still all good. Yeah, Davison getting up for another lap here. Even Ian Piper improves and stays 13th. Bobby Moss has been going well in the latter portion of this lap. Can he get himself ahead maybe of some of the AMs at least and get himself towards the rivals where he needs to be? Yes, he gets himself into the top 10. So a good improvement for Moss in the McLaren with just over 2 minutes to go. Pierre-Antoine is into the pit lane from 5th position, and that with just over 2 minutes to go, that might be it pretty much, as we've not got very much time remaining at all now, and it really is time to start your final lap if you're not on one at the moment.
Johnny Woo. Woo's his way up to P15. Considering he hadn't set many laps actually prior to that one. Now you can see not, I was going to see if he's going to jump over a fence or something like that, just for a bit of fun that they have. He's going to pull it off and be done with that one. Just seeing if David Long here, he's obviously improving and perhaps on his last dedicated flying lap that he could do. He's bottom of the timesheets, but he may be able to move himself up. Obviously 13 seconds off the pace was not a proper lap that he put in. Let's see his first proper lap. Bang, there it is. So he'll go up to P20, so I'd have to say that's a competitive lap finally on the board for him.
Yeah, right in the mix there, isn't he? 21st, but only 1.6 seconds off pole, especially for an AM. That is not too far away at all around a circuit of this length. Ian Piper now making his way up towards the line. Currently 2nd in AM, but that's misleading, really, because it's a very big gap up to Chandler. That's been halved, though, pretty much cut in half by Ian Piper, who's improved on this 2nd lap in a row, which is pretty rare. And further up front, Kieran Sharp is going purple again. Not because he's trying too hard, but because he's gone quickest in the 2nd sector, even surpassing his own lap time now. Can he get himself into the lower 45s just to put the nail in everyone else's coffin and secure himself pole position? here at Navarra. It is going to be over the line for Kieran Sharp, and maybe a minute improvement, if it is at all. It is not quite 0.003 of a second away from improving, but nevertheless, he should be on pole. So Millington is going to be the only one who can take this off him, and he's not going to. Doesn't improve himself either there, Josh Millington. And that will be that. Pole position sorted. Felix Smoggy moves up to 5th place, though. So some changes there. But most drivers now coming into the pit lane as the checkered flag waves. If you're not on a lap time at the moment, then you've got to come into the pit lane. And that will be the end of your session. So this is the last chance now. It really is the last chance. And again, traffic still playing its role, even at this stage, as Jason Marichal gets in behind Sobrevia in 11th place, the number 7 GT4, and it is nevertheless an improvement for Marichal, who goes up to 14th place.
Yeah, he get ahead of a lot of those AM cars, so that's quite good. Yeah, what a lap there from the German driver, Felix Smogly, isn't it? Like, that was a very impressive last minute to get that 2.84 machine up there. But Kieran Sharp's time, untouchable at this point. 2/10 gap over Millington. Starting on pole, we don't know, do we, too much about this track? Like, if pole or second place is going. Sometimes, you know, some tracks as you're aware of, like Austria and stuff like that, starting in P2 is just as powerful as starting in P1. So it'll be interesting with this track.
I don't think it's a similar situation to there, but you're right, we don't know how the two are really going to interact side by side in towards the opening corners. I don't really have a reference point from the GR86s, I'm afraid, either to give anybody, because they were standing starts, and those cars relatively difficult to get off the line. It was more about your launch rather than your positioning, so that wasn't really much help in answering that question at all. Josh Millington goes over the line now, and may have improved there, but yeah, it did. Certainly did. Only just less than 2 tenths behind pole now, but doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. He still will be second, and he'll still be on the front row, which I think he'll be pleased with, but he's got to do something about that margin to Kieran Sharp. If Sharp can replicate that in this race, he's going to be very difficult to beat indeed.
And on top of this one, my friend Ewan, is how well these drivers going to go consistently around the track without making errors and mistakes. That's going to be the key, isn't it, racecraft? Because I did see during the practice session a lot of cars making some errors and makes mistakes. But then again, that's what you do during practice sessions, isn't it? You push to the absolute limits because it's practice.
Yeah, you push to the limits and then stay within them in the race.
Yeah. Hopefully.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
The thing around here, though, is that it is actually quite hard to hit anything because the runoff is often tarmac. Look at it on the left-hand side there, for example. There's plenty of grass around elsewhere, even if it is a bit dry in this part of the world. But on the outside of corners, generally, it is tarmac. That's going to make it pretty difficult to find yourself in the gravel or indeed the wall, which may indeed be a good thing. It's Kieran Sharp who's on pole, though, for this race at Navarra, with Josh Millington alongside. Tom Davison and Volkan Bakadan is in the second row. They're sharing the second row. That's the series leader, by the way, in Pro. Felix Smoggy and Pierre-Antoine are at 5th and 6th, with Jamie Nuttall and Guillaume Hamling in the 4th row. It's Nick Clibbins, 9th, ahead of Bobby Moss, who got into that top 10 relatively late. Vinny Sobrevia is in 11th, ahead of the first of the AMs. William Chandler has got up into 12th position, and arguably more importantly, he's got an entire row between himself and his nearest rivals, as Bart Raven and Jason Marichal of the Pro classification have got themselves onto row 7. Ian Pfeiffer is in 15th, ahead of Johnny Wu, and then it's Mav Gardner and Gergely Consabo sharing row 9. Liam Jars and Richard Phillips round out the top 20, and then it's David Long, Marcus Cook and Matt Smith. So that's your 23 driver grid, and a fairly run-of-the-mill qualifying session has given us that situation. 40 minutes ahead of us, though. It is a relatively long race. There will be a pit stop required for these drivers in the meantime as well, and we're filled with unknowns, really, going in towards this race. I'm sure the drivers will be to an extent as well. Not really sure how they're going to get on with this race. They're not going to be sure, likely, how it goes for 40 minutes around here. It's going to be very, very interesting indeed, and we'll be getting underway after a formation lap now.
Yeah, so there's no standing still start for these gentlemen, gladiators, so they're going to get, I'd say Kieran Sharpshire had the advantage on that race start. What's interesting, I haven't really seen laser scan because of laser scan tracks, but I've never seen the helicopters and emergency vehicles. Did you see that behind the grandstand there out near the car park area? They're all laser scanned, so that's a little of attention to detail has gone into this track, but I don't think the drivers need to be worried about that at the moment. They'll be worried about that bit of tarmac that's placed in front of them.
Yeah, it's a great level of detail. These scans getting very good these days on iRacing. As I said before, one of the newer circuits to be added to the service. Plenty of them getting added these days as well, especially these more obscure European circuits, which have often gone amiss. But we're getting a few of those these days as well. We've had Oschersleben. It was my first experience in the rain with the TSRC and Oschersleben. If you remember that, I think we did that one together.
Yes.
It was a very exciting experience to see rain in the flesh. Well, not rain in the flesh. I've seen rain outside before, but rain in iRacing, I mean, in the flesh for the very first time. Doesn't look like it's those kind of conditions today, really. It's a Spanish racetrack, as we've already mentioned, but it's very dry in this part of the world. You may notice from the grass, it's not quite a luscious dark green colour that you might well see in the UK or Northern Europe. It is a much drier, water-starved area than the UK, that's for sure. So these drivers won't be worried about rain, but it's going to be the worry of everything else that this track brings much more than that.
Yeah, very Australian-esque, actually, as well, too, Brown. But yeah, that's so much of the middle parts, of course, of Spain, Spania, who, of course, will be playing the England in the Euro Cup final. So looking forward to that one as well.
I am sort of looking forward to it. I'll see how enjoyable it is when we get there on Sunday. There we go. We'll steer clear of football, though. Into the pit lane for the pace car, and we're ready to go racing. 40 minutes ahead of us as we get taken to the halfway mark in the TSRC GT4 series. It's going to be a long voyage of discovery for all of the drivers headed by Kieran Sharp at a new-ish circuit to the iRacing service. Is he going to surprise them and jump immediately out the final corner? It looks like he has got a bit of pace on the motor, and he has indeed gone very, very early, almost before anybody else has gone round the final corner. Kieran Sharp opens the taps, and we're underway for 40 minutes with him getting a big head start over the others. It's not a very grouped up field on the way towards turn 1, 2 and 3 as a result, as a big dive down the inside from Davidson goes a bit wrong. Bucket and down the inside at turn 3. It's not going to be sorted just yet. Door to door for the two Aston Martins. They jump over the curb. Oh, they try and figure themselves out. A big slide for Davidson as he hangs on to third place. A really congested battle, really lively on this opening lap as the Mercedes of Felix Smoggy also looks down the inside now, trying to find the room. Can't do it. A lively start for third place.
Well, this puts it to rest, isn't it? How exciting this is on the first lap of the race. Kieran Sharp getting a massive gap of a launch there out front, and this is the rest of the pack behind him currently at the moment. So brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Actually, he's dropped that a little bit now. Josh Millington has now started to catch up with that big gap. There's the 1, 2, and then there's the gap back to Tom. And then as you can see, that Gagler car's behind there in the Hornet's Nest on lap 1.
We've got a couple of cars off in the background, by the way, but we'll have a look at some lap 1 replays in a short while. Ian Piper and Matt Smith are both off the back. Matt Smith was already at the back, but he's been delayed by a spin, I think it was, for Piper at turn 7. I think this is, it's 8, excuse me, into the right-hander. Oh, dear. Oh. Somebody's gone, Matt Smith, I'm afraid, has got that all wrong. And I'm not. That looked technical to me. That looked like he didn't have full control, but we'll find out after the race, I am sure. Side by side for 9th place into the final corner as Nick Clibbins and Vinny Sobrevia battle door to door again. Down the outside for Clibbins, who's got the better run out the final corner, and that's what you need round here. It's such a crucial turn is the final one, and it gets you a position if you've got it good enough. Into turns 1, 2 and 3, it should mean Nick Clibbins hangs on to 9th place, although Sobrevia's down the inside. Clibbins getting it wrong. A big slide, a half spin in fact, and Clibbins goes from 9th place to outside the top 10.
I saw that going a little bit too deep, and as it was horizontal to the camera, and yeah, it just cost a little bit of the rear end going out, as you can see. But well, he said he dropped a place or two. Further up in the field, the battle's starting to brew between P3 and P4, where you still see the leaders chasing each other. And the leaders are pulling away now too, I'd have to say, the Ewan, because they've almost got a 2-second gap back to P3 now.
I mean, that gap was first created on the very first corners of the race, not least because Kieran Sharp jumped so early, giving him an immediate gap, but also the fact that these two Aston Martin drivers battled so hard through the opening sector of the race. It was quite spectacular, but it's created a big problem for everybody now, and it may have created our top 2 that will stay the same throughout the entirety of this 40 minutes. We'll wait and see on that front. On board we go with Volkan Bakadan, the series leader, let's not forget, the points leader, after having scored the maximum 31 from the opening round of the season. Kieran Sharp had a bit of a disaster, finishing 11th in that race, opener at the Red Bull Ring, of course, and then came back to win the second one. It means they're only separated by a point because we've had 2 rounds and 1 round is dropped. Quite complicated, but it means that we don't really have to focus on the championship very much here tonight. We can just focus on the racing. Pierre-Antoine is very close to Felix Smoggy, just behind this. You might be able to see it in the rearview camera as the McLaren looks to the inside now, in the red and white livery, trying to get through, but was tentative really. It's always so dangerous when you're heading down the inside, especially through turn 2 there. There's a real danger that you go straight into the side of the car alongside you, and you really will land yourself in trouble for that. So caution was exercised by Pierre-Antoine, and he stays in 6th place.
I was going to say, when we're riding on board too before with the car, some of those cameras that you have there is like, objects may appear closer than what they really are. It kind of throws you off a little bit having that as a rear camera view, but I'm not a racing driver. It's quite interesting. But still, Josh hasn't been able to do too much about the overtaking from Karina to P1 yet. So further the battle will still continue with this one, as I believe that is still brewing up, my friend, with Gary.
Yeah, I think it is. I think I'm not sure where the pass is going to come from, really, between the front 2. They might well wait for the pit stop, first of all, which is going to shape the race. Oh, Pierre-Antoine Dallaire getting that all wrong, and he's going to lose places there. Hamlin's already through, Sobrevia as well, and maybe more getting through there. No, only a couple of positions lost, other than Jamie Nuttall, who was a given to go through, given he was right in behind anyway. Have a look at this from the air, in towards turn 11. Really sure how he's managed this. He breaks a bit too late. Not sure if there was contact with the Mercedes, but he was certainly trying desperately to avoid it.
Oh, Bobby Moss.
There we go. Meanwhile, Bobby Moss off the road.
Yeah. He was running up with his pack as well, too. In fact, he's right behind the French driver that we just saw. And what's happened here?
Curb.
Oh,
and then contact. So, who was that who hit him around? Jason Marshall, I guess. Would have been the one who delivered the final blow there in the McLaren. And now, Pierre-Antoine Dallaire is off the road now and spinning around, in fact, down at turn 3. It's not been a good couple of laps for Pierre-Antoine Dallaire, I'm afraid. And that has just put a line under it all. Here it is in towards turn 3. You're looking out for this. Flips that first curb, but it's such a difficult corner to get slowed down for. Even though you've got ABS, turning and braking at the same time is never a great idea, and unfortunately, the first few corners here at Navarra require that. Excuse me.
So that 3 times quickly. Yeah, it's starting to, just on this last lap or so, it's really starting to spice itself up, as you can tell, because some of the drivers are starting to make little bits of errors starting to creep in at the moment, and of course we're right on board once again. I was going to say, where's Kinsabo? Is all the way back down in P14. Remember, he was a force to be reckoned with last season.
I'll just have a look at the results so far this season. DNS at the opener, but 7th place finish last week. Watkin Cyber, that was at the Sebring round of the championship. Means you can't fall back on a drop week, but you can forget about all of that at the moment. Only 12th in the pro classification. Glad to say that everybody is still running here. All 15 pros and all 8 AMs still running in the race now. After 7 minutes gone here at Navarra, it is Kieran Sharp leading. Josh Millington, who we're riding on board with here, is in second. And these have got to be the picks from the race. It might be early to say that. We're still more than half an hour to go. But I don't think it's an oversight to suggest that it's going to be these two fighting it out for the win here today.
Have they practiced their pit stops as a little bit of David Long gets past the Australian driver Marcus Cook, who's up 2 positions, and further up the field there too. We've got Liam Gillis and Richard Phillips exchanging Christmas cards early.
Behaving nicely as well.
But go back to that one, my friend. It's once again, like, we've seen errors in pit lanes, haven't we, before? Just completely drivers missing their box a little bit. It's going too far there, costing you a second, maybe 2. Being a new track, once again, have they had a chance to practice their pit stops?
Yeah, I say it all the time. It's such an underrated part of practicing. The way you can gain time, if indeed you do practice your pit lane entry, especially where you brake for the pit lane entry, is so important. If you do practice that, you can gain time that you would absolutely die to gain by driving quicker. You know, you die to get that pace on the circuit with what you can gain in the pit lane. So it will be hopefully practiced. Well, as you can see there, though, it's a pretty straightforward entry. All in all, it's not quite a Fuji situation where you're having to sort of swerve through a chicane at very high speed before braking. It's pretty much a straight run in as you're on the brakes. So just getting that braking point right will be the only thing to negotiate, really, rather than the corners themselves. But still, it will be a factor in this race as we head towards a quarter of round 3 complete now. Shouldn't be seeing pit stops this early. I don't think you can actually make it, to be honest. So they'll have to wait a little bit longer. Expect pit stops a little bit closer to the halfway mark in this race. As we look back from Sharp, still looking at Josh Millington, unable to find his way through. But as I said before, I wouldn't expect too much to happen between those two before the stops.
Oh, it's Pereira going a little bit too heavy on the chicanes as well, too. So it just looked like he got past Richard Phillips, doing a recovery drive, 11 positions down, but we saw that having a couple of moments on the laps earlier. Josh has just got to apply this pressure, doesn't he, at the moment? That's all you have to do. Make Kieran Sharp mirror drive. And Josh Millington, with the fastest lap currently at the moment, is applying that pressure to Kieran Sharp. Which the pressure to Kieran Sharp would be he has to be the one making the decision on the pit stop first, right? And then that means that Josh can either follow him in or elect to stay out another lap. But I think he would be waiting really for Kieran to make that first call.
It's the advantage of staying behind. You can basically do what they don't do, and that can really give you an advantage depending on the race situation, because, of course, you don't want to pit right now and end yourself right up in a load of traffic. That would be no use at all to Millington. But he is very close, noticeably closer, I would say, than what he was previously. And they're still keeping a decent margin over those 4 behind. That's what you've really got to consider here as well, to be honest, when you need to. If you're considering battling, do you want to invite another 4 drivers into the battle? Because that's what's going to happen if you're not too careful. Over the line again after 10 minutes of this race. It's status quo up front. It's become a bit status quo, actually, in this second group as well, as Jamie Nuttall is the closest to making a move here, on board with him, trying to overtake Felix Smoggy now.
I think that they're lucky, Kieran Sharp and Josh Millington, because of the fact that these Gagler cars are battling. So they're getting that 2.4 second gap over them back to P3. So I guess if these cars start to work together somehow and get on with it, then they can catch the front two, and we can turn this front 4 fight into a 5 battle. The top 5 at the moment, my friend, haven't changed any places. They've started where they have started, and that's currently where they're running.
Yep. Outside of that, though, there's been a lot of positional change outside of the top 5.
Hey,
that's quite some some funky screen wipers there, aren't they?
Yeah.
Going in opposite directions, but clears the rather minimal dirt that Jamie Nuttall has found on his screen. Not sure whether he would have asked for that or whether that just did it automatically, but anyway. Windscreen wipers now have a purpose in iRacing, as we all know. Indeed, on these cars too, because you can indeed have rain with the GT4s now, as per the last update, I think it was, over the summer. And so that just adds another new dimension to the series as we go aboard with the AM leader, William Chandler. Haven't seen too much of him, but I think he's just been reaping the benefits of having a couple of pros in between him and his nearest AM rival. He's still got one in between, but more importantly than that, Gardner has got 3.5 and more seconds to catch up to Chandler before even thinking about taking the lead.
And whether he's going to be sitting here just happy to follow Nick at the moment, seems to be. Nick Lemons, of course, is in the Pro, the 113 machine. I think they should have rain in every part. Doesn't even matter, even IndyCar oval tracks and stuff like that. I mean, it's a simulation. Why not simulate having fun rain where you would never have rain in regular motor series? I mean, you pay for it, right? I pay for this. I pay for this with myself. I want to be able to have the opportunity of putting any car, any track, anywhere, and any conditions that I like, because it's a simulator.
Yeah, I do agree, but in the same way, I think they're going to focus more on, first, while they're rolling it out to start with, they'll definitely focus on more traditional rain cars, if I can use that term, because that's what matters most. But I think eventually, like to reach a stage where you can do some quite weird and wacky things and some fun Week 13 ideas for all the leagues around iRacing, I'm sure, or for everyone there. We go back though to this battle for third place. It was great to watch Davidson versus Bakadan on the opening lap, but it hasn't really ignited since then. Volkan Bakadan is still looking for this way past Tom Davidson at the moment. If things were to end as they are at the moment, he certainly would lose his championship lead to Kieran Sharp. He might have that in the back of his mind, but certainly at the front of his mind will be the very small gap up to Davidson here, and how he's going to be actually make this pass and get up into third.
We got some fans out here for Tom, which is a few people have got some Bobby fans out there. So thank you for tuning in, everybody, and enjoying the race at the moment, which is quieting down a little bit, but there are battles brewing up. We do have pit stops to come very soon, and further back at the moment, you may see Jamie trying to get past our German driver to eventually get himself up at a P5. But the overtaking is difficult, but they are starting to bunch up now even more, so you can throw a blanket over these cars.
Certainly can. It's good to see. But it has been the same for a lot of this race so far, really. This has been the situation. Jamie Nuttall trying to get through here. It's probably the most urgent of them, in a sense of, he looks like he's the one who might well manage it next, as we look at the opposite lock he's having to use around some of these corners. Now he's got a good run. That was a good run through turn 8, and look how close he is here, tucked right underneath the Mercedes, which does seem to have a bit of the legs on him on the straight, and again doesn't decide to go for it. I have a feeling that they are now really waiting for the pit stops, which can't be too far away. We're only 5 minutes from half distance.
And if I lost you there for a second. And these drivers, as you're aware, I think this is definitely going to be one. You're going to definitely win or lose some of these places in pit stops for sure. Definitely between the first two, that's for sure. And then this gaggle of cars as well. This is where we mentioned it before, and we sound like broken records, but those pit stops are going to come hugely, massively into play here.
Yep. They will. To be fair, as they so often do in the TSRC GT4 series. So we eagerly anticipate them, as I believe it is possible to make a stop and get back in time for the end of the race now in terms of fuel. I think he can get back. So that's an important marker in the race to note. To turn 3 they'll go again. Davidson hangs on again. I think that one of the only drivers really making progress here is Pierre-Antoine Delaware. Delaire down the inside, very nearly there of Gerglican Sabo for 14th place, and in the end doesn't have to make a move. Good avoidance from Antoine and also Liam Giles as well, but not, I'm afraid, for me. Is it Jamie Wu? Is it?
Yes.
Yeah, Johnny Wu, excuse me, who's gone around and made the contacts. It was always going to be difficult to avoid, but this was good avoidance from Antoine Delaire and also those behind, but unfortunately not for Wu. Look at this, very close, and great job at adjusting his line
backed up.
Backed into him.
Yeah, you got to stay still.
Yeah, Gonzalo could find himself in trouble for that. And it is always a difficult situation. You want to back up because you want to get out of the road, but you've also got to be mindful that there might be people going around the outside of you. That's
why you just got to stay still, yeah. Even if you're on the racing line, sometimes until, of course, the cars go past. Because you've got to be, once again, you've got to be predictable. The cars that are seeing you at that place. Oh, yeah, pit stop up the road. Who is that? That's Josh. So he's trying the undercut.
So, this was earlier than I was expecting. I did think he would do something different. Make no mistake about that. But I didn't expect it this early. I must be honest. 22 minutes to go, at least. And Millington's not going to be worried about making it home on fuel, but he has certainly upset the normal rhythm of the race by doing this. Has he got himself a winning strategy? William Chandler comes into pit lane from the lead in AM, but this could be so crucial. Where does Millington come out, and how much traffic is he going to be in once he does so as well? He just needs to squeak ahead of Phillips. He hasn't. He's going to just drop into that gap there, just behind Phillips, excuse me, and ahead of Ian Piper, who is in 16th place. So that's gone quite well for Millington, I've got to say. He's got 2.5 seconds to
you'll have to repeat that, my friend. I think we just lost you again for a second.
Yeah, it's proving quite difficult for me. Oh, there we go. It's okay now.
Got you back. Go ahead.
Whole thing? Do you mean the whole thing?
Oh, no, just the very end of it. I thought it was cutting off there because we were talking about the gap and stuff like that, exactly, that he managed to came out. So his pit crew, whatever, have worked that one out perfectly to get him in a bit of clean air. Now, how will Kieran Sharp respond? All the rest?
I would come in straight away if I was Kieran Sharp, but let's see what he does, because he's the one in control after all, and he does respond. So, big pit entry coming up here. Have a look at this.
Difficult.
Braking
look at
late.
This.
It is trickier than I thought, actually. Oh, big stop as well. And you won't speed, I wouldn't have thought, because the cones are after that corner. It's just about getting around the corner as quick as you can. Yeah, that's more difficult than I thought. I'll retract my earlier statements that this was an easy pit lane to get onto. That's certainly not true.
Now, Karen, stop it.
Up into the pit lane. Stops
right.
in the box. On the marks. No tyres. Just fuel. Now, Millington has not been slowed up by Phillips or indeed anybody else, which is the absolute key for his strategy to work here. He will have been on heavier fuel throughout that outlap, so it will be tricky, and I think Sharp is going to have him here. Sharp surely is going to be ahead, even with 1/10 of a second longer in the box. Sharp is going to be ahead. It's a great in-lap from Kieran Sharp, and he's put the lower fuel, the lighter car to great use now. The key for his race is getting through this traffic without too much interruption.
Yeah, that traffic's going to be the only problem, isn't it? That's Richard Phillips up the road there. So that's going to be the only thing that's very painful after pulling off a really good, quick pit stop there. They gave him a little bit extra time, as you can see there on Josh Millington. So essentially net P1 and P2. But how much of this traffic is going to hurt? And I'm sure at the moment Karen Sharp's going to be like, can you please get a pit road, please, Richard? Or that's what he'd be hoping for. But that's not up to Richard. Richard can do whatever he wants. He's in clear track position in P11.
The AM leader as well at the moment, so absolutely has a right to be there on the racetrack, but Sharp will surely want to dispatch him as quickly as possible. There may be a chance coming up here. That was turn 9 through 10 and into 11. He's going to have a chance here, and Phillips is not even going to get involved here, I don't think. He breaks early-ish, but not enough so that Sharp can take the apex there at turn 11. And now it's up to Millington to do the same. Pit stops for Bakidan at the front of the field, by the way, as side by side between Nuttall and Swoggy in the final corner there was catching the eye. Jamie Nuttall has looked like maybe getting through as we've got a spin. Was that Millington making contact with Phillips as he was trying to overtake?
It could be, and look at that. It was almost on the pit lane entrance. Like, he was a little bit ahead of it, thankfully. Oof. That would have been a big commotion for those other drivers wanting to go on a pit lane. Let's have a look currently at that. Yeah, I think that might have been.
Yeah, Millington will have been desperate to go through.
Yep,
and
hit it.
There's the contact there. Yeah. Tap, 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 and there you go. So he'll land himself in some trouble for that, I would say. Millington has got to be more wary than that, making overtakes. I know it's an overtake to stay with the leader, and that, of course, will be understood. But even so, you can't turn somebody around.
These are the drivers that are still out. Tom's still out, of course. There's Felix, Smuggy, and Jamie. So it looks like Matt Smith has had a moment. Maybe that's heading into pit road as well, too. We'll go back and have a replay of that one in a second. I'd say so, because it looks like he's just in a pit road, and I'm seeing some sort of race control messages saying he's crashed. Well, you saw how tricky that entrance was.
It's entirely possible. I was really surprised by that pit entry, I've got to be honest. Very surprised indeed.
I thought one of the toughest ones, obviously, is like Spa and stuff like that, isn't it? Considering you have to exit out of the corner there and overtaking opportunities into that. But this is even more trickier, but this is going to be fun. Here we go. See if these drivers come in. There's Tom up the road. No stays out. And these other two drivers would like to stay out too. Let's go back and have a look and see what happened to Matt Smith. I think that might have been... There's going to be a pit lane entrance. Let's have a look.
Yeah, well figured out. This is just a very slow moment.
Oh, it's probably...
he's just up on the inside there. Yeah. He probably would have got on off track for that, wouldn't he? But it's just up on the inside of the corner, really. This is Subrevia making a mark back onto the circuit again. And this is out the pit lane. Sliding, gone. Very difficult to catch these cars back again when you're going through there. And as I said earlier on, it's so unideal to be braking and turning at the same time. But these first few corners make you do that and make these cars very uncomfortable.
Now, Josh has put the fastest lap in. Yes, he has. And so he's starting to make it back up after that little bit of contact that he had before. And he is hunting in Karen Sharp for the net race lead currently at the moment.
Yeah, he's quick, isn't he, Millington? But I'm just concerned about the post-race investigation that's going to go on for that incident now. Surely that's going to be a cloud hanging over his head for the rest of this race. And there may well be an important steward's decision to make on that front in the future. But, of course, we'll let you know about that during next week's broadcast. By the way, only one penalty for last week's. Like, as far as I can work out, I don't think it was having a big bearing on the overall race itself. So no need to worry too much about that. As we go through round 3, this is the battle for second again. Felix Moggy and Jamie Nuttall. Really quite clever, actually, of Bakidan to get out of this traffic, although Impyfer ahead won't be doing him too many favours. Having to overtake the Frenchman will be pretty painful in terms of lap speed. But then again, these two are fighting. These two on your screen are fighting and have been for some time and costing themselves time in the process. So that all makes sense as well. It balances out, you would say, as they go over the line there. Nuttall still can't find a way past.
Jamie's car. Is that what livery pattern is that? I still can't recognise it properly. Some sort of animal skin or something like that. I don't know.
Looks like sort of wood, to be honest, from here. But difficult to see. It's a very bizarre pattern, isn't it? Behind another slightly bizarre pattern, but I would say quite a good one from Felix Smoggy. As there goes back in an important pass this on the AM leader, not the net leader in AM, but the leader for now, Ian Pfeiffer. So important for Bakidan to do that because the gap will have been growing to those front three that he would desperately like to get ahead of all of them at the end of this pit stop phase. And if he can, then he'll be on the podium provisionally. Yeah,
that is crucial, isn't it? Because remember, he was battling with them earlier. And now, and them, of course, being Tom, Felix, and Jamie that you're seeing here at the moment. Tom's still got that nice little bit of a gap. And once again, these drivers behind can probably elect to see whether or not Tom's going to decide. Tom's fan club out there as well, too. Hot dog livery. Thank you, DQ Dave. I was about to say it did look like I was looking for the hot dog in the bun somewhere. They've elected C not. Are they coming in now? Let's have a look. Tom, it's very wide on the exit over there, isn't it? You can't really cut.
Long stint.
Yeah, still out, my friend. So
I'm surprised that they're still even able to go, to be honest. 44% of fuel, I would have thought you'd be in by now, but clearly not. They're staying out further. And all to the benefit of them, probably, because don't forget, now that they're staying longer and longer and longer, the fuel is going down and down, the weight in those cars going down and down. They should, in theory, be quicker. We'll put the theory to the test, though, with some actual facts and statistics. 45.9 from all three of them. So consistent across the board, actually, from those three. And as we go and look down, scroll down for Volkan Bakir'dan, he is not quite going that quick, although we're waiting for a lap time from him this time round. 46.0 it was from him last time. He's about to hit the line now, and it's a 45.9 as well. He was a grand total of 1/1000th of a second slower than Davidson on that lap. It's clearly not making very much difference.
that's pretty impressive considering it's a new track and all the drivers are used to it as well. So, and you got drivers separated by that much. I mean, that's impressive, isn't it? Usually you get that in like Austria and stuff like that, where people are very familiar with the tracks. Let's have a look at Liam Gillis, because he's had a mistake here. Yeah, this is a common place of where he has, and I'm just wondering if he's just off the racing line, gets it around. I can't show you the track map, unfortunately, as you're aware. That doesn't quite function too well on this one, but yeah, he's back onto it. And
too heavy on the right foot there, I think.
Let's just see another
on
day.
the exit.
Yeah. As you said, there's a huge runoff area here, so I mean, chances of you actually damaging your car is pretty limited.
Yeah.
Oh,
Millington and Sharp. And a big move down the inside from Millington. Well, that looked aggressive. It looked late, but it looked successful. On the evidence of this, Josh Millington's in the lead. And can Kieran Sharp respond now? Because that Porsche Cayman has looked supremely quick recently. Look at the dive. Look at the distance he comes back from. Sharp may be a little bit disappointed with the room he was given on the exit of the turn there, but that was a brave dive from Millington that I'm not even entirely sure was intentional.
They've given it back, I think.
He's into the lead, net race lead.
They've given it back?
Oh, wow, he's given it back.
He's handed it back, yes. I was going to say, he might have felt it was too aggressive. A day late, dollar short on the brakes there, and I was going to say, that's reminiscences of Max Verstappen, isn't it? Going back of that. So, but that's sportsmanship, I have to say, at the end of the day, isn't it? If you realize, hey, I was a little bit too greedy on that one, then give the place back, and then they can continue this battle. Let's go back and have a look if it's just handed back over here at the moment. There it is. He's lifted and allowed Karen back through.
He's actually gone on the brakes, yeah. So, gifted that position back again. I don't know. It probably was a little bit too aggressive. Just a little bit. Oh, dear.
We have a damaged car.
Not looking too good down there.
Yeah. Now, I don't...
pit lane with,
oh, yeah. He must have
wagon,
smashed
actually.
it completely. Now, just as we spoke about how there's not too much to hit, the Wild Things machine's banged into the fence.
Oh, wow.
Heavy impact. There's not even a safety barrier. There's not even any tyres or anything like that there as well, too. So that's obviously not a common area where people would actually fit it.
Here we go. So Sharp is very aware of this now. And Millington is still, nevertheless, very late on the brakes and is almost going to get the favour of turn. Sharp was a little bit more courteous on the outside there, but Millington's right here now, and he's having a dive down the inside into the left-hander. There's contact, and to avoid spinning around, Sharp and Millington just have to lean off of one another for a moment. That allows Sharp to power back through again, and he's into the lead again. The net race lead, of course, we're talking about here. As the two continue to battle, Millington switches back to what will be the inside at the final corner again, but he can't quite do it as we hit the half-an-hour mark in this race. Everybody ahead of them is in the pit lane. It will become a leading battle, which of course it is, between Sharp and Millington, even despite the long fighting of everybody else. Jamie Nuttall has not pitted just yet, apologies, but everybody else has, and that allows them back into the lead, but with a much smaller gap than they had before.
Yeah, that's huge. We just saw where Tom come back out. There's Tom in the background, so he still maintained that lead there. But Vulcan has got that past Felix there and the other one. Jamie's the only one that stayed out so far. He's the only one that stayed out that extra lap. Let's see how it's going to come back into play with him because, you know, he's been tucked up on the gearbox of Smuggly for so long. Wow, just like that on one lap, everything's got super, super exciting here at the moment as these two exchanging Christmas cards all over the place. Good, fierce battling, I'd have to say, and fighting. That's what you get paid the big bucks for.
Absolutely. It's down the inside. It's tentative. It's cautious from Millington this time. And what that might have just done is ruined his exit onto the back straight. And it might give Kieran Sharp just a lap of respite. You'll see in the background there, Bakkerdan didn't gain any places from that early pit stop ploy. Smoggy, in fact, had got a lot closer to him because he was riding around with heavier fuel than they were for the last 10 minutes or so. Makes me wonder what Jamie Nuttall is going to, what position Jamie Nuttall will be in at the end. Yes, he is in now. I don't suspect he's got the fuel to go any further, even if he wanted to. So he will make his way down pit lane to accompany Gergely Consabo. There is a faster pair in this series, by the way. That's why the Aston Martin of Consabo looks like it's been repaired so quickly, and he might even re-emerge in the final 10 minutes of this race. But can Nuttall get ahead of Bakkerdan and Smoggy there, because they were quite close. They were hinting on battling as well, so I wonder whether Nuttall can get through here. Let's see, as the leading pair of Sharp and Millington are going to go through with relative ease, in fact. But Nuttall now comes out the pit lane. Where is Jamie Nuttall going to be? It's going to be so close on the exit of the pit lane. It will be ahead of the two of them. The fighting between them, between Bakkerdan and Smoggy, has cost them a place there. It's cost them both a place. And that is the only positional change inside the top six all race now. It's Jamie Nuttall up to fourth here, jumping two of them in the pit lane.
Yeah, but the last one to box, the last one to stay out. So the over is the overcut, isn't it? That's what you call it. That's the one that's paid off the most here so far this evening on the racetrack that a lot of drivers are used to, especially not pit stop strategies like that, because you have to do that during a race. You can't practice that, can you? Unless you actually just get a whole bunch of AI cars or something like that and do it, or race with your mates. But at a full race distance that we're doing, that's not something easy to practice, so that's quite good. But here we are, down to the final 6 minutes, just shy of 7 minutes left in this race. And once again, to throw a blanket over these two. Josh wants to win. Kieran Sharp's going to try to hold on, as he's been leading most of the laps of this race.
It's just some of the impetus of Millington has gone away from him, I'm afraid, in these last few moments. He was looking so threatening and punchy not so long ago. Now, I'm afraid he's not really making as much of an impression. It's looking tricky for him to be able to get through here, but then again, he sort of surprised us with the first move out of nowhere. He very well could do it all over again. There is Tom Davidson in third place for the moment, and I think looking very good for a podium here. I think Jamie Nuttall's going to have a bit of defending to do, and that's going to open the gap ahead of him, allowing Davidson, I think, to hold on to third place. But let's wait and see, because Bakkerdan will certainly want to make an impression for the podium, as will Felix Smoggy as well. Fastest lap of the race so far for Kieran Sharp. They're really exchanging fastest laps, to be honest, Sharp and Millington, and it's a very good battle between them as well.
That looked close or not on that rear view camera. I had to see that.
Close.
I don't know if there actually was contact there for a second, but yeah. That's why I'm scared about that camera. I mean, I wouldn't be looking at it if a race driver. You probably have your mirrors as well too, but that is good. I think Tom's in good position. He's got the fan club out there say, come on, Tom. I think Tom has been leading this pack anyway, hasn't he? He's been that P3 position practically the whole race. I think he's okay on that one. So as long as he doesn't make any mistakes. But further back, of course, with those other drivers, that's anything up for grabs there with Jamie Nuttall being the biggest gainer. But here it is. So as you literally can't separate these two, can you, on this one? Only problem is that Josh has only shy of 5 minutes to get the job done.
Yeah, it's not long. Probably not as long as he wanted either, really. I think he'll have 3 more laps. In fact, yes, he will. He will have 3 more laps at least, so that's a more definite distance scale you can put on it, but even so, that's going to be tricky. I think we've seen another incident for Liam Giles there, down in 18th place now, dropping a couple of positions very quickly there to Gardner and Long. They're 3rd and 4th in AM at the moment, as we briefly ride on board there with the Porsche of Millington. Was that a good enough exit? Not really. And now he's going to have to really work hard to find an opportunity to get ahead of Kieran Sharp. He's now got 3 more laps to try and get this done.
And then you can see the Gagler cars behind them. You're right about that one. So here's your leader in the AM class at the moment. He's in a bit of a fix with the pro cars around there. I don't think he'd want to be battling too much because he has a huge gap there to the P14 position, as you mentioned. So just bring it home, play it safe, and you're going to get the AM win. But these two, Josh has dropped back a little bit there now. I wonder if he's just pushed it too much there. And that's probably one of the biggest gaps you've seen between these two drivers in a little bit of time.
Oh, drop very wide there.
Oh yes, he's making some mistakes there.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's it's not a real bad mistake, but it is a little bit of a misplacing, and you can't afford to be out there too much. We do have an instant limit, of course, before you start landing yourself into trouble. It may be a bit of a factor in your mind around a circuit like this. Generally, when there's so much tarmac runoff as you have here, there is a problem with incident points and just sneaking some off tracks here and there. We'll see just how much of a problem that is by the end of the race. So far, we haven't seen anybody fall afoul of that. So riding on board with Millington here to find his way past the McLaren that just lets out a puff of smoke as he bounces over the curbs there of the left-hander. Now into another right-hander. The final two corners to come as well. Millington hasn't had a chance for quite a few minutes now, and it's time for him to sort of reinvent himself a little bit here. He was gaining and getting some opportunities a little bit earlier on in this race. Towards the middle third of this race, he was really having a go, but that's dried up in the last few moments. He's got 2 laps to figure a way through.
I figure as well too that he's still maybe potentially having that fastest lap, maybe potentially having that little bit of penalty lurking with that other incident that he had before. But I think also what Josh has may have done by giving that place back to Karen with that little bit of a late braking maneuver may have make him look a little bit better with the stewards later on as well to say for sportsmanship. That's something else to take into consideration. But at the moment, Karen Sharp is doing a fantastic job. Just got to concentrate, don't you? You can't afford to make a little mistake right now there because Josh is going to pounce on it. Of course, Karen does not want to throw the race win away.
Absolutely not. It's going to be a very exciting finish, you get the feeling. Millington's not going to go down without a fight here, I don't think. What Sharp has been able to do in these last few laps, he's really nailed the exit of turn 8. Such a crucial corner for him, as Millington's very strong on the brakes down here at turn 9. But if he's not close enough, as you can see on that lap in particular, not close enough, nowhere near close enough. And so he can't really do anything. He can't even attempt it. And so we could be in for a real difficulty here. As what's happened here?
Well, Tom's we really caught Tom. We thought Tom had a little bit of a gap on that one. Now they've started to catch up in this pack as well too. So Tom's got to hold on for dear life to get that P3 position. But James started to apply some serious pressure.
I think he's struggling. I think Tom Davidson's struggling here because look at the gap to the 2 leaders. I know the 2 leaders are going quickly, but it's ballooned, that gap now, to nearly 5 seconds. As Millington, I think, has got a slow down penalty. The gap all of a sudden goes out to a second. That might be the race. That mistake there might have cost Josh Millington a chance at this race win.
And if anything, he's got to get on the power again too. Otherwise, this Kegler cars could steal this one away from him. But he should have enough time, 39 seconds to go, of course. Is this the final lap?
Yep.
Yes, it is. There's the flag being waved. So this is it. So but Karen Sharp just has to bring it home at the moment. They're not making any mistakes. But that P3, Tom's going to hold on tight here because Jamie is gained 3 positions in this race. He says, I only got 1 more and get myself a podium. Is he going to give it everything? Where can he get the job done on the last lap?
He's going to have to find a way. This could really descend into quite the battle on this last lap, by the way. Everyone will know it's the last chance, and so all hell could break loose here. Through turn 6 they go. Now the right-hander at 7, which is a bit of a corner that's worth thinking about. A little bit of opposite lock required, maybe, especially in that Aston Martin. Then get a late apex through turn 8 and get the run. But Davidson's done well there from a particularly precarious situation. He's got a good exit, and that might prevent Jamie Nuttall from going down the inside down at 9, and it has. Has that secured him a podium place? Has that exit right there secured him? Has that done enough? Meanwhile, Kieran Sharp is in the final few corners at the moment. He didn't have a good start to the season at the Red Bull Ring, finishing outside of the top 10 in the Pro classification, which is unusual for him, but he's been on the top step ever since. He's come under a lot of fire during this race, but he's survived it all, and it looks like he's going to take another race victory. Down in towards the final corner he goes now. Kieran Sharp goes a little bit wide indeed. He makes a slight mistake, but he is the winner of round 3 of the TSRC GT4 series here at Navarra. A fantastic drive, defensive drive at times from Josh Millington, who comes over the line just behind him, and he sets a personal best to go with it as well. The group behind finishes, having not changed positions. Nutto couldn't find that podium place in the end.
Oh, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. In fact, Jamie's just pulled off and just parked it as well. I don't think there shouldn't be any frustrations on that one because he did a fantastic job to get those positions. Look how beautiful Kieran Sharp's 23 machine looks in the sunset here in España. And even better with a race win.
Absolutely. It is the evening time, by the way, in Sim, in case you hadn't noticed. Now we pulled the conditions up for you earlier on. Will have helped keep the temperatures down to a reasonable level, actually, but I do wonder whether Tom Davidson was struggling with temperatures a little bit. There you go. Only 29 on the circuit. It was only 30 at the start. That shouldn't be too tricky to deal with. As we complete the halfway mark, actually, the first half of the TSRC GT4 series. The 40-minute race here tonight at Navarra.
Oh, what are they all
I was
doing?
impressed by Navarra, actually, I've got to say. I thought it was quite good. At times, it felt like it was a bit of a difficult one to overtake on, but there was plenty there to go at.
And at the chat there, well, obviously, here's William. William Chandler he obviously has 2 positions gained there, so he is a winner at the moment. Obviously, pending any penalties and all that sort of jazz, but doesn't look like there's any drama there. And at the chat there, everybody said good recovery for Bobby Moss as well. So Bobby Moss has pulled out of the session, but Bobby Moss did finish in P15 after a recovery drive. Results coming up for you now.
Absolutely. It is victory for Kieran Sharp. Not that we can see at the moment. We'll get their race results up properly when they're ready. If they are ready.
They will be ready. It's just
here we go. There they are. Kieran Sharp wins by 7/10 of a second. Millington's late slowdown there, I think, may have decided the race, although it may well have already been decided anyway. Tom Davidson makes it an all-British podium, with Jamie Nutter making an all-British top 4, in fact. He jumped over Volkan Bakircan and Felix Smoggy in the pit lane. It was quite a lonely race for Guillaume Hamling, who finished in 7th place. It was Jason Marichal in 8th, ahead of Nick Clibbins. And then the AM winner, William Chandler. Vinny Sobrevia finished 11th, there to Bart Raven. Pierre-Antoine Delaire finished in 13th after a pretty eventful race. Ian Pfeiffer and Bobby Moss round out the top 15. Then we're into a lot of the AMs. Mav Gardner finished 16th, but of David Long, Richard Phillips and Johnny Wu. That's 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th in the AM standings. 20th place overall was Marcus Cook. Then it was Liam Giles, who had trouble, especially late on there, followed by Matt Smith. And the only driver to not finish the race was Gergely Kinsabo, finishing 8 laps down. Finished roughly 2/3 of that race. Not sure whether that means he'll get points or not. But there are your race results in finished form. Kieran Sharp, the winner. As I said there, I'm not sure whether Millington's going to say, well, probably wasn't going to get through anyway, so that slowdown at the end there didn't really matter. Or whether he's going to say, I really thought I had a chance at overtaking Sharp there, and the slowdown basically prevented that final opportunity from coming about.
I'm wondering, if we're waiting for the drivers so they come have a quick chat to us, of course. Be very interesting. Okay, well, whilst we're waiting for the drivers, let's go back and have a look at the race start. Actually, that's the formation lag. We need a green flag racing here for a second. I don't want to push it back too far. We might break it.
It does look like the actual start to me, but maybe not.
This could be.
There we go.
Yeah.
Here we go. Yeah, so it was Kieran Sharp jumping really, really early, which was the surprising thing through the opening lap for me. At the back, we saw side by side, and the battle for 3rd place here was outstanding, by the way, between Tom Davidson and I think it was Volkan Bakircan at the time, wasn't it, battling with him for 3rd place. Side by side through turn 3, both of them nearly ending up at the road. This was spectacular through 4, by the way. How they controlled the cars through there, leaping over the curbs and off the road all at once. Fantastic racing, but that very much set the tone for the opening part of the race in this second group, because after that, we didn't see much positional change in that second group.
No, I mean, you could see it, and they were kind of, pinballing off each other a little bit at that one too. But it was clean racing, wasn't it, going through in a track that not a lot of people have a huge amount of experience. You can see at the back there, that's where there's a little bit of a tag, I think. But still, they didn't go around, was quite amazing. Just having a look back through the field here, because this is still in the opening lap, of course. I don't know where that position is. Who was that when we ran around? That was really early, wasn't that? Marcus Cook, I think it was. No?
Testing my memory now.
Matt Smith or something like that, yes. Yeah, I think that was Matt Smith, but yeah, I mean, that's the opening lap. But going back, of course, I think we do have Karen, but we'll also go back and have a look. If you want to pull Karen in, but when we go back and have a look at that moment, right, was they had that little switcheroo, exchangeroo, perhaps, and...
Yes. We'll have a look at it with the pictures, and we'll talk to the man involved, or at least one of them, Kieran Sharp. Welcome in, Kieran. Good to have you with us, and congratulations on the win. But and let's start with that, actually. How are you feeling at the end of that race? A hard-fought race, it has to be said. Even if it wasn't side-by-side or guns blazing all race, it was an interesting race, and there was plenty of action in there as well. How are you feeling after that?
Oh, that was a sweaty one. I think quality was super important, and Josh was definitely quicker on race pace. The brakes on the Porsche were really strong, but then my car was really strong on the straights, so kind of balanced things out. So what it meant was I was quicker in the right places, and to hold it. And I think Josh, the moves that he tried, he had to try because they were the only opportunities. But yeah, I was, he done the sportsmanlike thing on the first one where he bumped past me and he gave it back, but I see no, he had to try something in the end.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's all fair enough. We've just seen the pass itself down here at the end of the lap there, or towards the end of the lap. He ended up giving that one back. I mean, what would you have done in that sort of reverse situation if you were the one who'd gone down the inside there and made the move in that way? Would you have given the position over? Were you surprised that he did?
I would like to think that I would have given it back, yeah. And yeah, like the racing, you've got to race each other hard around the circuit like this. It's a really tight track.
Absolutely. It's halfway now in the season. Because of the way that drop rounds work and so on, and I know I said I wouldn't talk much about Championship tonight, but I have done now. That gives you 2 wins effectively, with the other result at the Red Bull Ring written off, which I'm sure you'll be pleased about. How are you feeling about the final 3 rounds now, going into it with a relatively strong position?
Yeah, it's been surprising so far how quick McLaren's been at all 3 tracks. I think there will definitely be a track where I'll struggle at, so I'm waiting for that one, and that might give the upper hand to Josh, or I think even Vulcan. I think that this track is definitely not an Aston track, but I know there are other tracks that will suit it. And I also think my 11th position at Red Bull Ring might hurt me at the end if I have one more bad result. So it's also something to keep in mind.
Absolutely, it is. Thanks very much for coming to have a chat with us. Really great to hear from you, and congratulations on the win.
Yeah, thank you. See you guys soon.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much. Kieran Sharp there, the race winner tonight after 40 minutes at Navarra. A voyage of discovery for everybody. And he ended up taking the win. I think that's just about it from us here tonight, Beagles. But final thoughts from you on what was one of, if not your actual first experience round here, my second, I think, and was pretty impressed by it. There was some good racing in there. It was a bit tactical at times as well, with the pit stops that really did intrigue us in that middle third of the race. But in the end, just 3/4 of a second separating first and second at the end of a long race.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? About how impressive it was, considering a relatively new track, and first time that I've been around this track as well too. Second for you. And how close the drivers were, evenly matched on pace all the way around. I mean, we're talking, very, very close times between them. Great battles, like the first 2, of course, these 2 battling it out, and then the battle for P3, all heated up there. A couple of different pit stop strategies you mentioned there as well too. Big gainer out of that one was Jamie, by staying out the very last one to box. He boxed on lap 18, I think it was, something like that, my friend. So that was crucial, but... And then overall, very good driving. Only a couple little collisions. More so, mainly it was mainly driver error, wasn't it? Than contact on this track. So hey, yeah, that's good clean racing.
Absolutely, it was to be expected, of course, with such a new circuit. But there you go. Just watching the final couple of moments of that battle between Sharp and Millington tonight. A fantastic battle indeed. This was the second version of it. It very nearly came to blows there, but they both steered out of it and managed to avoid any contact. And that was the last time they were really side by side. That late slowdown there, we believe it was anyway, for Millington. Really losing him out at that final opportunity. Well, that is just about going to do it for us here tonight. A big thanks to everyone who's been tuned in over the course of the day. You may have noticed the JPB YouTube channel, by the way, has reached 2,000 subscribers. So a big thanks to everyone who has done so. And don't let that put you off doing so yourself, as we have nights racing pretty much every night for you on the channel, so make sure you subscribe and check that out as well. Plenty more from the TSRC GT4 series as well, though it's worth remembering. Come back to us again in 1 week's time, 19th of July, same time, same place. We will be at the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit for round 4 of the TSRC GT4 series, so we look forward to having you company then. For now, I've been Ewan O'Leary alongside Dean Biggles, and until we see you at the Nürburgring in 1 week's time, it's goodbye for now.